Okay, so we're back. Hopefully you took the time to try to figure this out for yourself, because that's going to be the thing that helps you understand this the most. But let's just go through this. The first thing, the three parts are my signal phrase, my quoted material, and my citation. So first I'm going to fill in the pink and the blue. I know that this person's name is Tim Kreider. One of the things that happens when we talk about other people in our essays is we almost always just use the last name. First names are for more close relationships, last names, and sometimes we would put Mr. at the beginning, but in general you can just talk about him using his last name because you don't have a close relationship with this person. He's just somebody who you're quoting. So I might say Kreider, and last time I used argued, so I'm going to say explained. Generally, we keep things in the past tense for, I'm going to make this bold so we can see it a little bit better. We keep things in the past tense for essays, so I'm going to use the past tense. Kreider explained. There we go. Okay, so I've got this part all done. Let me see if I can highlight it. Maybe? No. Okay, there we go. I've got this part all done, and now I need to, hey, stop highlighting. I need to fill in my year. I know that the year is 2020. I don't need the entire day. I just need the year. So I'm going to put it in parentheses, 2020. And then I know that I need my period outside. So what color was this? I think I made this blue. Okay, so I've got Kreider explain. And the citation. So I have my signal phrase at the beginning, I have my citation at the end, and now I need to use my first quote. So this first quote was that people were pleasantly surprised. And he says they too seemed pleasantly surprised when he called them up to chat. So I'm going to say Kreider explains that when he called friends on the phone instead of texting or messaging, he found most of them to be, quote, pleasantly surprised. Okay, let me see if I can move this over a little bit so you can see more of this. All right, so this is how it would look in my essay. Kreider explained, of course I don't need a capital there. Kreider explained that when he called friends on the phone instead of texting or messaging, he found most of them to be pleasantly surprised. I can't remember what color this was up there, but I'm gonna make it green. My quoted material is very small, and I built my own sentence around it. So you can see that the amount of this sentence that I've written is much bigger than the amount of this sentence that somebody else has written. I'm just using it to as a vehicle for my own ideas. Okay, so I've got my signal phrase, my citation, and then my quoted material. The next one I'm going to move on to is how it's a weird, unprecedented time. Right here, he says that he would talk to people for half an hour, 45 minutes or more, and the things that they talked about were that it was weird and unprecedented. I'm going to use that. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm using the same one, the same name, of course. If I'm in the same paragraph, I don't need to keep saying Kreider. I could maybe just say he, and then I would have my verb. He explained, he argued, he posited, he put forth, something like that. I'm just going to use the verb he goes on to explain. Oh, I've already used explain. So he goes on to describe. And that's my signal phrase. That part of the sentence lets people know that he is, that I'm about to introduce a quote, okay? This, when somebody sees this when they're reading, they know that a quote's coming up. I still have the same citation at the end because it's the same article. Again, if I'm in the same paragraph, then I wouldn't need to have that because I've already had it in there once. I don't need to put it in every single sentence, but I'm going to pretend like I don't have it, like I'm in a new paragraph. Okay, so now I need my quoted material, and I've boiled it down to like just the key phrases that I want to include. So he goes on to describe how the pandemic is overall a very weird, unprecedented time. Oh, it looks like I spelled unprecedented incorrectly. Okay, so I've got my quoted material there. I could have built any sentence that I wanted to here, but if you look at the green part, you can see that the amount of the sentence that I've written is much bigger than the amount of the sentence that he's written. I've included all of this, and I just have a few of his keywords. Okay, so then the next thing he talked about was one of the conversations he had on the phone was about relationships, and I thought this was very interesting. Is it okay to break up with somebody during a pandemic? And this was, of course, written in March, like the first week of the pandemic. So people were, in relationships, and they were starting to talk about, is it okay to dump somebody at the beginning of a pandemic? Now, of course, the pandemic has been going on for months, so like perspectives are different, but at this point he was talking about being trapped for months. So I could either use his name, Kreider, or again, if I'm in the same sentence, I could just use a pronoun. I'm actually going to start it differently. One of the main topics of conversation for Kreider was, so I can see that this is Kreider's ideas, right? I have this signal phrase that is saying, I'm going to include a quote from him, and I am letting you know exactly where it came from at the beginning. Again, the ending is exactly the same as it was before. If I'm in the same paragraph, I don't need to use it every single time. I'm just including it here to demonstrate. So one of the main topics of conversation for Kreider was relationships and the worry of being trapped with the wrong person during quarantine. Oops, no period. Okay, so now this is the only word that came from him. It was his idea, and this is, I've paraphrased what he's talking about here. None of this, I don't think that being in a relationship is being trapped. I didn't call people and have them be pleasantly surprised. I didn't describe how weird and unprecedented this time is. All of these ideas are not my ideas. They're all Kreider's ideas. But the amount of words of his that I'm using is very small. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That, of course, all of this came from my research. I'm explaining everything that was from my research. These are not my own ideas. But when I explain those ideas, I'm trying to keep my words at the forefront, my ideas at the forefront of the writing, and his ideas, his voice, very little, right? Just for emphasis, weird and unprecedented, trapped, pleasantly surprised. Those things are going to be emphasized in the sentence. So hopefully you came up with something similar to what I came up with. I think that now is a good time for you to go through and review your research. You probably have some quotes on your outlines, but it's a good idea to get out your highlighter. Even if you have an electronic copy, you can click on the highlighter tool and go through your documents and just look at the things that might, that they said really well that might add to your essay. Okay, so that is all for frames. I have a little bit of information down here for you, but that should help you as you're drafting over this weekend. As you're putting it together, make sure that every time you quote or even paraphrase, that you have the signal phrase at the beginning, the citation at the end, and you keep the quoted material just to the keywords. Okay, I will be posting a short quiz on frames for today, just to help you solidify this information and make sure that you really get it. All right, I'll see you guys later.